It's Victober, bitches! Hi everyone, I'm Jenny. If you don't already know, welcome back to my channel. And I am the most excited bean that ever was today because it's the most wonderful time of the year. And I'm not talking about Christmas, my friends. I am talking about Victober! This, obviously, as a Victorian PhD student, is my jam and I wait all year for this. So, this is my overdue TBR, but I first of all have to apologise and say that I've been ill, so I'm a little croaky and I'm sorry. I'm just gonna have to put up with that today, and I know that my audio is still quiet on my videos and I'm really sorry about that, but I'm here to tell you that I am a poor student who's moving house soon as well, so I have no spare money for a microphone and I'm really sorry, but I am going to put captions on all my videos, so if you're having trouble, just follow along with the captions. That's all I can do. Soz. But let's get into the books! Some people have self-restraint when it comes to making a Victober TBR, or any TBR, but my friends, are not that person. I am the definition of the opposite of self-restraint. So here's the 25 books that I hope to read. And yes, I know, I'm not going to read 25 books because some of them are chunky in true Victorian style. But I should say, first of all, if you don't know what Victober is, and if you don't, then why are you here? Who are you? Why do you subscribe to my channel? But it is a wonderful month-long readathon, which is hosted by Katie from Books and Things, Kate from Kate How, Lucy from Lucy the Reader, well I had to think there, and Ange from Beyond the Pages. They are wonderful booktubers, and all you really have to do to participate is just read one Victorian piece of literature. You don't have to read exclusively Victorian stuff all month, but obviously that's exactly what I'm going to do. And they have made a list of challenges, so I'm going to first talk about the challenge books I'm going to read, and then challenge books, the books for the challenges, you know what I mean, and then I'll get into the general books I also hope to read if I have any time. Okay, so Ange's challenge to start with is to read a book by a female Victorian author, and bonus points if it's one that you haven't read before. So, I am going to read The Romance of a Shop by Amy Levy, never know how to say that, but this is a really little known novel. I don't know much about it, but my good friend Amanda recommended it to me and we studied our Victorian MA together, so I trust her. I think it's about two girls who have to become financially independent, and I think they start a photography business. It's a short book, and I think Amy Levy only lived till 27. I feel like she might have committed suicide, or she had some kind of tragic death. So she's not very well known because she doesn't have a very big body of work, but this will be really interesting to read, and I think an interesting representation of women and women at work, really, that might be different from other traditional domestic depictions of women in Victorian literature. So excited for that. Then Kate's challenge is to reread a Victorian book, which is nice because I hardly ever do rereads. So for that I am going to reread Alice in Wonderland because I haven't read this since I was 10, and I am also going to read Through the Looking Glass because it is a separate book, but I never finished it. I think I only got about halfway, so that'll be nice. And this is a really gorgeous edition that has little illustrations in it like that, and we all probably couldn't see that. There you go. And I think this will be fun to read children's fiction as an adult because I'm sure there's a lot in it that I'll see differently now I'm not 10. And then I also want to reread The Picture of Dorian Gray because it's been a couple of years since I read this, and again it's short. I've got this on audiobook with Stephen Fry narrating it, so I think that'll be a treat. And then Katie's challenge is to read a book that's either under 250 pages and or over 500 pages, so you better believe I'm doing both. So for the under 250 pages one, I have chosen The Warden by Anthony Trollope, which is the first one in the Barsetshire Chronicles series, which is great because there's 6 novels in the series. I read the 5th one in my master's novels course, so this will be good to start at the very beginning, and I'm sure Katie would approve of this because I know she loves that series so much. I think this is about a lot of church politics and a warden who is kind of benefiting himself over others, but I don't know much about it apart from that. Like a lot of people, I try not to read Blood classics if I don't know much about it because they can have some serious spoilers in them. So there's that one, and then for the over 500 novel, over 500 page novels even, which is, let's be honest, not hard when it comes to Victorian literature, I have chosen The Woman in White. We're going with purple. Look, that was not planned. But there we go. And this is a book that I'm very excited to read because it's one of my mam's favourite books, and I haven't read Wilkie Collins. I know, I call myself a Victorianist, and I've not read any. I haven't really read a sensational novel, so I think this will be great fun, and I think it's about a woman who has left a mental asylum, but again, I really don't know much. I'm deliberately going in blind because I think that's fun, and this is 702 pages, so yay. Oh, and this, I should say, is I think 211 pages, so yeah, not bad, not bad, but the print isn't that small, so I think I can do this. I'm very excited to read Wilkie Collins. Then we have Lucy's challenge, and this was definitely the hardest for me to find something for, but the most original challenge, and that is to read a book that is underrated, that was published in the same year as your favourite Victorian book. So I can hardly really pick a favourite Victorian book, but I did pick Wuthering Heights in the end, which was published in 1847. I think a lot of people had that year because so many great books like Jane Eyre were also published in that year, and the only thing I could really find that I thought I would like to read is Elizabeth Gaskell's first ever published short story, or first publication ever. I know Gaskell is really established, but she wrote lots of short stories, and I don't feel like they're very well known. I wanted to buy a collection of them, presuming there would be some kind of omnibus edition, and there's not. There's nothing. So her first short story, wait, let me look at my notes. I've got lots of notes, guys, was called Libby Marsh's Three Eras. I think it'll be really interesting to see where she started, and I think it was published under a pseudonym of Cotton Mather Mills, so. And it was published in Howard's Journal of Literature and Popular Progress. There you go, info for you. And then I also want to read this collection of short stories by Elizabeth Gaskell, The Moorland Cottage and Other Stories. I know nothing about this again. Wow, I'm sounding so informative in this video. I'm excited about everything, but I know nothing. But that's kind of why I'm excited in a way. So yes, those are the individual challenges, and then the general one is to read by candlelight. So I think I'm going to read some of those Gaskell short stories by candlelight because I can't deal with reading a whole novel by candlelight. That's ridiculous. Then we have the group reads, and oh god, the book I need is right at the bottom. Hold on, moving books. Oh, I never read Squash Queen Victoria. Okay, right. the group reads that voted, the author that we voted for was Oscar Wilde. Look at this. It's all this stuff, guys. Chunky, I know. And we are going to read The Importance of Being Earnest and A Woman of No Importance, are two of his plays, which would be really fun because I don't read plays that often. I have previously read The Importance of Being Earnest, but not Woman of No Importance, so I've got them tacked and ready. So I might not reread The Importance of Being Earnest, but I probably will because it's a great play, let's be honest. It's fun, it's Oscar Wilde, and it'd be nice to read something light and humorous versus his serious novel, The Picture of Dorian Gray. So that'll be a nice thing that I probably wouldn't have read if it hadn't been picked, the group read. So yay, so that's all of the challenges, and then everything else now is just what I want to read. As if, I didn't have enough with just that lot. So firstly, I should mention that I'm very happily going to do a buddy read with Katie. We're going to buddy read The American Senator by Anthony Trollope, partly because this is a standalone, so it's not part of a series, so I can easily just jump into this. It's quite long. This edition is what? About 550 pages. I don't know much about it, but my dad read it and really liked it, and we tend to have a very similar taste in books, so I think it's going to be looking at society in the upper classes and politics because that's what he tends to focus on. In my very small experience with Trollope, he doesn't tend to focus on the lower classes like Dickens. It's more about the middle and upper middle classes. So this will just be a good discovery, hopefully, because I've not heard anyone talk about this one compared to his other heavy weights like He Knew He Was Right or The Way We Live Now. So that's going to be good. And then I really need to finish Wives and Daughters, which has my beautiful William Morris protective cover on it. I'm halfway through it. I really wanted to finish it in September, but I just didn't get round to it. I am loving it beyond words though, and it will be nice just to finish this when I'm getting into all this other Victorian literature. And then I also really need to finish The Netherworld by George Gissing, because I've just put this down for months. I kept saying I need to read this and putting it on my TBRs, but it's not happened, and I feel like once I get past this book, that'll really help me to move forward, and it'll just be good to read Gissing as well because he's not talked about much. So I'm only, what, 60 pages, 76 pages into this, so here's hoping that all this great Victorian literature will motivate me to finally finish this book, because it's only actually 400 pages, so that's not bad. And I also want to read Charlotte Bronte's unfinished novels, because even though I know I'll find this a bit galling, I read Austen's unfinished novels, so there's no reason why I shouldn't read this. I think it will be interesting to see how she started her stories, and it's short, why not? And we're on to Dickens, my man, and I'm going to read Martin Chuzzlewit, and all I know about this book is there's a dude called Martin Chuzzlewit, and there's a woman called Sarah Gamp who I think is a drunk or an alcoholic or something, and that really is why I'm reading this over other ones, because it might be helpful for my PhD, who knows. And I've never really had people rave about this one, so I'm just going into this with no expectations really, but it's a good, how long are you? 700, oh, it's nearly 800 pages. Oh, it's quite small print. Oh. It's fine, it's fine. I'm gonna get through this one. This is one of my priority ones over, you know, the other 24. And I also want to read Nickleby, which I have an audiobook. I have seen a film adaptation of that years ago, so I remember bits of it. I remember the twist at the end, but Smike is one of the most endearing characters, I think, and I haven't read it yet, but I'm sure I'll enjoy that. And I think Nickleby works at a school. There's a lot going on. I mean, it's Dickens. I think it's that typical narrative where everything is intertwined and people are all related somehow, and it all comes together at the end, and it's sad and it's happy, and yeah, there's going to be poverty and all that stuff in it somewhere, probably, let's be honest. I think there's some kind of mistreatment within schools in it. Who knows? I mean, I'm just thinking David Copperfield there. But again, excited to read another Dickens. I did think about reading Hard Times as well, so watch this space, but you know, both those books are really long, so we'll see. Then we have something different, because I want to read some poetry, Christine Rossetti's poetry, to be precise, because as you can see by the tabs, I studied a few of her poems on my pre-Raphaelite art course in my masters, and I loved it. I think she's quite underrated, and everyone just reads Goblin Market and that's kind of it, but I think I might not read all of these poems, but I mean, it's only about 200 pages of poems, so I think I might do. It'll be a nice way to break it up, and it's a book I can read gradually over the month. I won't necessarily sit down and just read this in a few days, so that'll be nice, because I have got a few Victorian poets, and I just, this is a shorter collection compared to my Tennyson one, so gonna tackle this first. Then I've got another of the heavy weight writers, and that is The Mill and the Floss by George Eliot, because I haven't read Eliot for flipping ages, but I love her. I read Middlemarch and Silas Marner, and I absolutely adore those books. I know not everyone likes Eliot. There's a lot of psychological analysis of characters and in-depth descriptions of their mind and how it works and all of that, because she was really interested in science, but I am so in love with the way that she writes and constructs her sentences and her use of language. I think it's just amazing. And the sad thing about this book is I know what happens at the end. I couldn't tell you anything else about it, but I know the end. It's been spoiled for me, and that's really sad. I think is it industrial? I don't know. I don't want to read the back. I don't want any more spoilers, but it's her bicentenary year this year, so it feels right to get another one read by her. Oh, I have lost feeling in my foot. Hold on. Oh, that's better. And we have some short stories. I don't know why I'm singing. And that oh, I'm just so excited. That is Wessex Tale by Thomas Hardy. This is a book I don't mind if I don't read, because there's only some short stories, but it's short, and I felt like Hardy was the only big Victorian author I wasn't reading anything from, so I've got to whack something in there. And I haven't read anything since I read Return of the Native a few months ago, which I loved, but that is too long to have been without Hardy in my life. So I think it's just quite pastoral stories. I mean, Wessex is kind of a key. I love this cover. Look at this. I think I saw this on Ange's channel first and thought, well, I've got to get that specific edition because those geese are amazing. Then I have some non-fiction, and that is Elizabeth Gaskell's The Life of Charlotte Bronte. This is interesting because I think this is the only autobiographical book that was written during her lifetime, and Gaskell and Bronte were huge admirers of each other. I think they had quite a lot of written correspondence, and it's a book that if I don't read this month, I will definitely roll over next month into my non-fiction November pick, because I think this will be so interesting. I think there are long sections about her French homework though that I might skip over, since I don't really read French and I can't particularly tell from reading her French homework how much she's improved. But I think it's interesting to look at her while she's alive rather than in hindsight, someone who actually knew her in some way. Well, I also wonder how it will compare to modern memoirs. I mean, obviously I know it'll be very different, but still I'm sure the kind of details that Gaskell would have included might be quite different to what we would find interesting now or talk about now. But because obviously I love Charlotte Bronte, it will be very interesting to me. This is not one of my top priorities necessarily though. It is over 400 pages, well over 400 pages, so again, compared to all the other long novels, I don't know if I will get to this, but definitely this year, if not this month. Speaking of non-fiction, though it isn't Victorian, it's about the Victorian period, so I'm going to include this in my TBR, and that is Lucy Wellesley's Queen Victoria, because I absolutely loved her Jane Austen at Home book that I read of Jane Austen July. That was so wonderfully detailed and lovingly written, and I think this is also a beautiful cover, and I have every faith that this will be just as illuminating. And then I also, another book I'm ashamed to have in this, but I need to flip and read, and that is Victorian Pubs. Oh my lord, I just need to read this damn book. Because I'm happy to take it slow, but if I haven't read this at the end of the month, I'm gonna kick myself. And it's not even long, it's just the note-taking process, that's very American, process, darling, takes me ages. I can honestly take about an hour to take notes on 1, 2, 3 pages. It's ridiculous, but I'm gonna read it. I'm committed to it this month, I promise. You're gonna be proud of me, guys. We're getting there, I promise. I have a book that I heard about through Katie's Victober TBR a few years ago now. I want to say about 2 years ago. And I bought and just never read. Maybe it's 3 years ago. Anyway, it is Drama in Muslin by George Moore. A drama. Must not miss out the A. A drama in muslin by George Moore, who is an Irish author. And let's be honest, there aren't that many prominent ones apart from Bram Stoker and Oscar Wilde. So this will be great. And again, I don't know much about it, but I know it's set in the late Victorian period in the 1880s in Ireland. And I know it's about 5 women. And I think it's really looking at the social and political changes that are happening in Ireland, which again, we just, let's be honest, really don't learn about. So this will be fascinating, and I will enjoy hearing the Irish accents in my head as I read this. And it's not too long either. It's, oh, it's only a bit over 300 pages, 330 pages. Bliss! And then last but not least, I'm sorry, I know this is going to be so flippin' long, but I'm not even sorry. I'm so excited. I don't care how long this video is. I hope you're just as excited too. Wow, I'm aggressively excited, just calm down. Anyway, the last book on this TBR is Shirley by Charlotte Bronte, because I have a reading goal this year to read all of the Bronte novels, and this is the last one, you guys. So it's a bittersweet moment, because I don't want there to be no Bronte novels that I haven't read, but I also want to have read all the Bronte novels, you feel me? So this is another big one. How long are you? I really need to prepare this. You probably don't even care how long this book is. I'm going to flip and tell you though. It is 610 pages. Oh, excuse me, Shirley. And again, I don't know anything about it, and I'm too scared to read the back, because Penguin Classics are particularly bad for giving you spoilers. I read the back of Mary Barton. Ruined. Never forgiven for that. Anyway, this will be wonderful to read. This is my mum's favourite Charlotte Bronte. I feel like it's quite underrated, and I know Lucy loves this one. I think it's her favourite Victorian novel, favourite novel ever. Big statement. Whoa. So I am definitely, again, prioritising this one. I say that, I don't know how many books I've said, I'm prioritising this one. I am definitely prioritising this one, The American Senator, and Martin Chuzzlewit, aside from the ones that I already said I want to read for my challenge, and finishing the ones I just am partway through or really need to finish my PhD. So that's like most of the TBR. Oh boy, it's gonna be a great month. I can feel it. I'm so excited, and I am definitely going to try and get some Victorian videos out. I am thinking of doing a literary pilgrimage to Thomas Carlyle's house, because though he's not a prominent writer now, he was really big in his day, really influential in the literary circles, was great friends with Dickens among others. Let me know if you'd be interested, because my literary pilgrimage videos don't get as many views, but I really enjoy making them, and I think that'll be quite an interesting one to visit. Let me know if there's any specific Victorian content you would like to see from me, and let me know if you have a Victober TBR, because I would love to see it, or just what you want to read if you're participating. Tell me all the things, because as you can see, I'm so excited. Oh, I've got my baggy jumper on, especially so I can be flappy and excited, and my dramatic lipstick. I should say, you probably can't see, but I'm wearing my picture Dorian Gray earrings. Wait, I want to show you them in their glory. Excuse me, books. Oh, kicked the camera because I got overexcited, and it's gone in different angles. So if it's wonky, that's why. But can you see? Wait. There he is. What a nice chin shot that was. But yes, leave me all the comments and requests and things, and Victober, yay! I will see you soon. More bookish shenanigans. More Victorian bookish shenanigans. Yes!